Good afternoon. Again, my name is Eric Rinehart. I'm the Lake County State's Attorney. Yesterday, the Lake County State's Attorney's Office began its prosecution of former Waukegan police officer Dante Salinas in connection to two separate incidents in 2019 and 2020. A grand jury has returned charges of aggravated battery related to excessive force against a Lake County resident named Angel Salgado in August of 2019. The grand jury has also returned charges of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter from the October 2020 shooting that killed 19-year-old Marcellis Stinnette. The grand jury also returned a single count of aggravated fleeing and eluding against Tafara Williams, who was the driver of the vehicle in which Marcellis was a passenger. Before I lay out some of the details that we will present in court for the bond hearing today, I want to say a couple things. Our office continues to express its condolences to the family of Marcellis Stinnette. As a parent myself, I cannot imagine the pain that his family has been through. And the time that we have spent investigating this matter has not been a period of healing for her and her family, and we understand that. We have stayed in contact with the family through their attorney, but we respect the frustration that some have had regarding the length of this investigation. But as I will explain further, we needed to understand the evidence and expert opinions before we could effectively and fairly bring charges to the grand jury. I want to thank the men and women of the Illinois State Police who led this investigation, the investigators of the Lake County State's Attorney's Office, and our independent forensic trajectory expert, Matthew Noedel, N-O-E-D-E-L, N-O-E-D-E-L, who investigated this matter in a professional and timely manner. Police officers, deputies, and troopers throughout our county and our state are the first responders of our legal system. I work with outstanding police officers every day, and I'm amazed by their professionalism and their empathy. Professionalism and empathy that doesn't always make the news, or that doesn't make the news enough. They protect, investigate, and serve the people. All of the people. A strong connection between the police and the civilian community and the courts is vital to the health of our justice system and necessary for a full and equitable social contract. But when officers break the law, it weakens these bonds and damages our whole system. These two separate incidents demonstrate that Mr. Salinas has not lived up to the standards of his brother and sister officers. Angel, Marcellis, and every resident of Lake County have the moral and legal right to be safe. And the law that enshrines that right is what this office is sworn to uphold in all circumstances. The law requires every investigation to look at the facts and the law and not public opinion or the status of the victims or suspects. I'm confident that we have done that. In August of 2019, Officer Salinas was on patrol in Angel Salgado's neighborhood on South Victory Street in Waukegan. Angel was not hurting anyone. He was not breaking the law, and Officer Salinas had not received a complaint. Let me repeat that. There was not a complaint about Mr. Salgado. And like all of us, Mr. Salgado has a fundamental right to feel safe in his own neighborhood and in his family's neighborhood. Officer Salinas heard Mr. Salgado shout and stopped his patrol car. A verbal argument ensued. Officer Salinas pulled his firearm and then his taser in the middle of the verbal argument. Mr. Salgado turned away from Salinas to enter a fenced-in area of his family's house. Salgado had ended the argument and was walking into a yard, a private yard. Salinas chose to follow him, deploy his taser, tackle him, and punch him in the face. This broke Mr. Salgado's eye socket. The grand jury has returned the charges that we requested with respect to this incident: aggravated battery and official misconduct. A little over a year later, on October 20th, 2020, Salinas had an encounter with another resident of Lake County. This encounter led to our second set of charges: one count of second-degree murder and one count of involuntary manslaughter for shooting and killing 19-year-old Marcellis. After being approached by a Waukegan police officer, Tafara Williams pulled away from a traffic stop and fled and eluded Waukegan police. She crashed her car near the intersection of Martin Luther King and Helmholtz Avenue. Marcellis Stinnette was a passenger in Miss Williams' car, and committed no crimes. Neither Miss Williams nor Mr. Stinnett had any weapons. Salinas parked his car very closely and parallel to Miss Williams' car. Salinas exited his vehicle and crossed to a point in the middle of the road. The car backed up and attempted to leave the area. The car did not hit Salinas. While standing next to Miss Williams' car, Miss Vehicle, and well clear of its path, Salinas fired several shots into the side of the vehicle as it reversed past him. Salinas' shots killed Marcellis Stinnette and injured the driver, Miss Williams. These shots were illegal, unnecessary, and constitute second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. These charges come after months of investigation. The Illinois State Police completed the bulk of their work by February of 2021. Our office separately retained an independent trajectory expert to analyze and supplement the Illinois State Police investigation, and to fully explain the timeline of the incident, the location of Salinas, and the trajectory of his bullets. Mr. Nodell traveled to this area after the state police completed their investigation, as I said, and painstakingly studied the car, the intersection, video footage, and the bullets themselves. His work was even more important because, as most of you know, Officer Salinas did not turn on his body camera. We received the final report from Mr. Nodell in July of 2022. We presented this matter to the grand jury yesterday. Today, former Officer Salinas has surrendered, and the bond hearing, as Mr. Spagnolo said, will be at 1:30 p.m. in T812 behind me. When I was sworn in as Lake County State's Attorney, I promised each and every person in Lake County, civilian or law enforcement, that our office would get to the truth in this very matter. The grand jury's decision moves the legal system forward on its solemn journey to achieve justice for Marcellis' family and Mr. Salgado. These cases will bear the caption, "People of the State of Illinois," and the people will show that no one is above the law. It is for Marcellis and Angel and all of the people that we are sworn to protect that we bring this case. I can take a few questions.
Mr. Rinehart, is this the first time that a police ever been charged in Lake County?
I know police officers have certainly been charged with crimes. If you're asking me for an on-duty, I'm not positive. I'd have to get back to you on that.
The 2019 case, why was he not prosecuted back then, or why was he not taken up before? What happened with that? Why was he put back in history?
I can't comment too much on that. As everybody knows, I became state's attorney in December of 2020. Obviously, the state police completed their analysis of the Stinnett matter in February of 2021. The Salgado matter was part of our review of everything that's been going on with Salinas. I will, of course, say that the Salgado matter is not as complicated as the Stinnett matter, but we were always going to, complete our investigation of the Stinnett matter before we announce charges with respect to Salgado.
How long has he been a Waukegan police officer?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Could this investigation trigger other charges against other officers who aided Officer Salinas?
I don't want to comment on that right now. I mean, the investigation is primarily over. I don't believe that there'll be any new facts that come to light with respect to other individuals. I don't want to rule anything out, and I don't want to comment too much on that.
What's the sentencing range on Salinas?
With respect to the aggravated battery, with respect to Mr. Salgado, it is a probational offense up to 5 years. The second-degree murder is a probational offense up to 20 years. The involuntary manslaughter is a probational offense up to 5 years. So everybody understands years, I mean years in prison. So it could be probation all the way up to the numbers I've said.
Do you think this is like a new day in Lake County that police officers are now being held accountable that maybe they weren't in the past?
I think it's important that this police officer be held accountable for these two cases that the grand jury found led to a violation of the law. Certainly, I'm a different state's attorney than the past. We need to keep everybody safe. We need to do everything we can to follow the law to make everybody safe, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what neighborhood they look in. Regardless of what neighborhood they live in, regardless of how they look, regardless of anything else about them. We have to keep each other safe, and we have to follow the law. And the officer broke the law in these two incidents.
On October the 20th.
Earlier about, you said these shots were illegal, this constitutes involuntary manslaughter. And looking at all of the evidence when you were taking
And second degree murder, yes. Yeah.
and taking all of that into account, share with us again just your feeling about, seeing the evidence and then having to
Well, certainly, as I said, Officer Salinas did not turn on his body camera. There is a buffering system. There is a buffering system that, sure. Officer Salinas did not turn on his body camera. That makes this case a little bit different than other cases that have reached our national attention, whether it's George Floyd, whether it's Ahmaud Arbery. And so there are many cases where we do have a lot of footage. This required the Illinois State Police to go into painstaking detail. This required us to hire an independent trajectory analysis, a nationally recognized trajectory analysis, which our office did. And so he's a scene reconstructionist. He's a trajectory expert. He's nationally recognized. I'm very proud of his work and of his very neutral background. He is, as you will be able to see, I think you could find it on the internet. He has testified on both sides of all of these cases, whether it's civil or criminal, whether it's in support of a civilian or in support of a police officer. I was most impressed by the neutrality of his resume. And so we had him do the analysis. We had him reconstruct the scene. The car was crashed. That led to challenges in terms of reconstructing the evidence. There is some surveillance footage which does not show the critical moments. Separate from the body camera and squad camera issues, there is surveillance footage that does not show the critical moments. And so we had to have an expert analysis to understand exactly why. And that's why it's taken so long. And some of you here have asked me why this is taking so long. We wanted to present the full and fair picture to the grand jury, and we did that. And it took time, and I understand that did not allow this community, that time could not be used for healing. I understand that for the family, that time could not be used for healing. I pray that healing has occurred for other reasons, whatever the individual journey of those individuals are, and I hope that this is a step in that too. But I certainly recognize that the passage of time has not been the same for these individuals as it perhaps has been in other cases when there's victims of crimes. I recognize that, but we had to get this right. It is a matter of public importance, and we had to get this right to present it to the grand jury. We could not present incomplete information to the grand jury and, in my opinion, go the way of other prosecutors' offices outside of this state, where they have presented the information to the grand jury and then said, we did the best we could. We did the best we could when we completed our trajectory analysis and presented it to the grand jury yesterday.
I understand, and I want to thank you, Eric, for finally doing the charges and everything. But I want to ask you something. If a regular citizen shoot someone and you don't take out the time to do this just 2-year investigation, we knew on October the 20th, 2 years ago, who the officer was. Why wasn't he charged and have to fight like every other citizen in America would have to do?
So the second degree murder charge recognizes that he has made claims that he was defending himself. That's why it is a second degree murder charge. He obviously was a police officer who was allowed to have the weapon that he was allowed to have. He was an individual who had some ability to use that weapon legally, which others of us may not have. And so the fact that we didn't have direct eyewitnesses, the fact that we didn't have the surveillance footage, I think makes it different. I think it makes it different from other cases. And I think this was the right way to proceed, to make sure that we got to the truth.
I want to ask a question real quick. So now that, again, thank you. I know this is a lot of hard work. I've been driving you crazy. I know for almost 2 years. But, this was a chain of events. We've charged Dante Salinas, and as we see, and most may be disappointed that Tafari is being charged, but there was still another person involved. And I know you spoke earlier and you said that you didn't want to get into that, but had not James Keaton stopped and initiated this, the results wouldn't have been this. So where do we go with him? How? Nothing for him?
So my understanding, and I would refer that some of this, what I'm about to say, to the Waukegan, to the city of Waukegan. My understanding is that he is no longer with the force. We are completing our investigation. Obviously, our emphasis has been on these other two charges. We're completing our investigation as to whether or not Keating would be included on what's called a Brady list, and we will certainly make an announcement, about that. But insofar as we can, as much as we can. But these are the charges. These are the charges that we believe, beyond a reasonable doubt, contain what the criminal activity that happened with respect to the October 2020 incident. Certainly, there is criticism. There is criticism that can be made earlier in the chain, but it's a question of were mistakes that were made, are they criminal or are they a violation of constitutional rights? As we all know, not every violation of a constitutional right is itself a crime, and that's not something that a local state's attorney will bring, but is a violation of a right, an improper traffic stop. Is that a crime when it leads to Officer Salinas several minutes later using force unnecessarily? And so it's really looking at that chain and whether you can bring criminal charges all the way back, right? And so that's where we are right now.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Eric, can you talk at all about what the trajectory analysis did show?
Yeah, it showed where. I don't want to get too much into the evidence. We have to give a bond proffer in a few minutes, and we want to be fair to the judicial process that's about to happen. But the trajectory analysis showed that the bullets entered the side of the car, and more importantly, where Salinas was in relation to the car. We certainly knew early where the bullets were in terms of the car, but we have to know where Salinas is and what the angles are, and that could not be done without a trajectory analysis.
That's my last question. It just has something to do with injury. I just wanted to know. I know we did the trajectory, we did the ballistic, so I wanted to see was there another officer involved in the shooting?
In the shooting, you mean in the shooting itself? No, not that our.
One officer that
Correct.
actually did the actual shooting.
Correct. I understood Mr. Edwards' question to be about an officer earlier in time. I don't want to imply that there were two officers involved in shooting.
Okay.
Is that right,
Just
Mr.
trying to
Edwards?
get that-
Yes.
just trying to
Thank
get
you,
that
sir.
out.
Yeah, thank you.
Two more questions.
I have one. Does your office recognize or conscious of this being a bold move? Is that something that you guys are conscious of? Because obviously in different states, these things don't happen like this. Is your office conscious that this is a big, bold move that you guys have made? Even though it's justified, of course, but it being irregular, it's bold.
We make tough decisions every day. We make decisions that are not in the news every day. We make tough decisions about whether we can bring charges beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, I've heard a little bit people talk about, well, there's probable cause to start the case. To avoid wrongful prosecutions, to avoid Lake County's history of wrongful convictions, we bring charges when we are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that criminal activity occurred. We make those tough decisions every day. Sometimes the tough decisions are not to bring charges. In this case, we made the decision that was warranted by the facts and the evidence, and we are confident in the investigation we've done.
Eric, can you talk at all just briefly about the decision to charge Tafara Williams?
It's important as we see when we charge an officer, which we take seriously, that no one is above the law. And the facts and evidence show that Miss Williams, we believe the facts and evidence show that Miss Williams broke the law and engaged in Class 4 aggravated fleeing and eluding. We are aware of the significant mitigation that exists in the case with respect to what she went through, but we have to acknowledge that individuals have to follow the law. And the very comments that I made, that we analyze the law and the evidence without respect to other factors, applies to Miss Williams too. And we certainly recognize what she has gone through, but we believe that she broke the law. That's what the investigation showed. It's a Class 4 felony. Somebody asked me about the sentencing range on Mr. Salinas. The sentencing range on Tafara is probation up to 3 years in prison. That's what a Class 4 felony is.
Question I gotta ask. You had said that Tafara was supposed to be from the scene, but when there's no traffic stop, let me be clear of this. When there's no traffic stop, how is that so? When there's no traffic stop.
So
tell me what law did she break when there's
she
no
had
traffic
been.
stop?
She had been.
I don't understand.
That's okay. So the Class 4 charge of aggravated fleeing and eluding is when an individual while being pursued by police violates 2 traffic control devices. Miss Williams missed or did not follow 2 traffic control devices while being pursued by the police.
One last thing, Eric. Moving forward, how do you feel about the outcome of this case and more people being accountability and taking liability for the things that we've done in Waukegan, Lake County within itself? How do you think about moving forward about other people when it's time to process other people in due time? And how do you feel about the outcome of this so far? your office work, the states, everybody working this.
Thank you for that. So as most people may know, we have started a conviction integrity unit, which does look at old cases. Now, that's looking at old convictions, right? I take your question to be broader than that, but I do want to comment. There's cases where you've had a conviction, and we need to look at those. And then there are other cases. We have analyzed other cases. We continue to study other cases. We continue to consult experts about other cases. It's important that everyone understand that no one is above the law, and when the facts, evidence, and law show that somebody has broken the law, we will institute a prosecution.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I have to go to court.